Happy New Year, everyone. Tom Grisafi, Ag Bull Media, Ag Bull Trading. Whew. Welcome to the first full week of 2026. And oh boy, do we have a show for you. It is Sunday afternoon, and upon you watching this, the markets will be open. I think we'll have some flyers. I think you'll see gold and silver move. A little interested to see what crude oil does. Some people say it'll be up, some people say it'll be down. May have volatility pick up. We may have bonds move because it was a weekend of interest. We're going to start with Venezuela, talk about farm payments, and then move over to Screwworm as cattle had a big up day on Friday. Who's the man who's going to help us with that? Mr. Wiesemeyer, Jim Wiesemeyer. You're watching Wiesemeyer's Perspectives only on the Ag Bull platform. Mr. Wiesemeyer, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. It didn't take long for 2026 to have a major news development, did it?
What happened? Did we have news over the weekend?
We did. About 3 a.m. Eastern time, I started getting a lot of flashes on my phone, and I could hear them. And we went into, I should say, the Trump administration went into Venezuela to get Maduro, their leader, and now he's in
New York,
I guess Brooklyn, Brooklyn, New York, in contained, and major market implications, as you said in the opening, Tommy. We're going to know, but there'll be a long additional implications of this that we'll go through, because this is a fundamental change in U.S. policy. This is the Trump corollary of the Monroe Doctrine. Don't fool in our hemisphere. So this will have appendages. It could have follow through on Cuba, because Cuba got a lot of their support from Venezuela, and China's going to get the signal. Now, they're going to continue to be able to buy Venezuelan oil, but it's going to go into the coffers short term under U.S. control, and that's going to help the Venezuelan citizens now much more than it did before. And eventually, if it continues, it will help reconstruct that battered country, and it's going to take years.
Yeah, we have a lot to talk about that subject. Professor Wiesemeyer, I wasn't quite sure. If you asked me on Saturday, point on the map where Venezuela was, I would have been off by about 500 miles. Let's educate people why this region's so important.
Oh my goodness. And this is why I wonder if they even teach geography in school anymore. I remember when I was growing up, we had to go in front of the class and pick out certain countries and things like that and outline them. And you got to learn where countries were around the world, Tommy. But look at the water around Venezuela. It's very north, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that shows you how we can have a oil embargo of ships coming in and out if we want to. And so the U.S. spent a number of months getting ready for this situation. And I don't think one American soldier got killed. I know that for sure.
Couple hurt right now.
Couple hurt. With, yeah. But all in all, a very impressive operation. But now the hard parts come in. What do you do? Leadership vacuum. The vice president right now, Rodriguez, Darcy, is the acting head of Venezuela. Although Trump said he will run the country short term, I don't really think that's going to be the case. They'll try to get the leadership that was there before thinking a different way in order to run it, Tommy.
So let's, I have some headlines that you put up. I think we just kind of talked about this, correct?
Sure.
Okay. And the setup?
Well, the Venezuela escalation hit the market at a fragile point. We've got tariffs feeding into U.S. prices and cost, and so inflation risk could tilt higher even as growth concerns linger if we have a run up in oil prices. But as you said, in my talks with different analysts, they're all over the map on
Hmm.
how this will be both short term and long term. But the market bias is going to shift, Tommy, to real assets, volatility, and hedges. Volatility is your key there because we have risk premium returning,
Hmm.
because of Venezuelan. They had about 1 million barrels a day. That's right around 1% of the global supply. But their reserves, Tommy, 303 billion barrels of oil. They 17 to 18% of oil reserves. Now, of course, that's what Trump was interested.
303 billion, right?
303 billion, about
Reserves.
17%
Yeah.
of all. They're number one
Yeah.
in the world. And now their oil is heavy sour
Heavy.
barrels, and that's hard
Yeah.
to replace.
Hmm.
And I think you were mentioning before we came on that's going to need refiners help, the Gulf refiners on that.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think you said Mexico or the Gulf of
The
Mexico.
Gulf of Mexico, America has a refining capacity. Now, what I think the play is, Jim, is that we get a lot of our heavy crude here in the United States from Canada, and this could really put pressure on heavy Canadian crude. When you look at the crude markets, you have your standard crude, but there's all different grades that trade a lot cheaper than what we trade a crude oil futures for, depending on the amount of processing it needs. One thing I didn't know about Venezuela, but I do now, they used to be way more sophisticated. Look at this bottom line. They have went terribly backwards here from what they used to produce, peak production.
It shows you what a dictator will do in a non-democratic country. And they literally raped that country. There used to a lot of be tourism there. I remember when it was a tourist spot, because you can see around that water on the
Hmm.
northern parts. So yeah, it's going to take years. However, that's the big risk. But Trump's a risk taker. And this is a multi-dimensional chess game. And I think you got a little chess graphic that
Yeah, I found this one. This is a real beauty. It's amazing what you can buy for $25. We're going to play this one a lot the next few weeks, but this little chess game of America, and it's not like it's America against Venezuela. I mean, who's left over there, right?
for their citizens, actually for democracy, when you
Right.
really think about it. And because over the last few years, 7 million people, Tommy, have left Venezuela because it was so horrible.
I,
And
I
that's put
didn't know
pressure
that,
on,
Jim.
yeah, that put pressure on other Latin American countries, Colombia, etc., and including the US. So maybe some of those people will come back. But again, Trump knows that it's going to take billions of dollars. And that's why it's the oil. Now, uh, when they were a better run country, U.S. oil companies, Chevron, Exxon, etc., were over there big time. And that's when they nationalized the oil industry. Actually, the pre-runner to their ousted President Chavez, and so American companies lost a lot of money. Trump is signaling to them, okay, if you want to get some of those entities back or have more control of it, you have to invest in the oil industry. That means infrastructure, Tommy. That
Hmm.
takes years. So don't think they're going to go from 1 million barrels a day to 2 million barrels a day overnight, over the next year. Uh, we've seen that wasn't the case in Libya. That wasn't handled correctly, but this is in our hemisphere. So I think you've got the best of the Trump people looking at what's it going to take to resurrect this country from a strategic point of view. And as I said before, the chess game is a good moniker for this, because this is going to clearly send a signal to Cuba. Marco
Hmm.
Rubio, our Secretary of State, said, if you're in Cuba and you work for the government, you ought to be afraid.
You're on notice.
Yeah. And it sends a signal, look at to Putin, because eventually that's going to be a competitor to Russian oil
Absolutely.
in the future. China, as Trump said, they can keep buying Venezuelan oil because that'll be income generating for the quote new Venezuela.
Didn't he say he wanted it paid in American dollars, though? I believe I read that.
That I don't know, but maybe that wouldn't surprise me.
Let me give you one other fun fact since we just threw this
Sure.
show together a little late this morning. I'm going to read this off the interweb. You can check my math. Venezuela holds significant gold reserves, with its central bank reporting around 161 metric tons as of mid 2024, making it the Latin American company with the country with the most gold reserves. So I found that interesting. Now, gold hit record highs just a few days ago. That's a lot of money in gold. They have a lot of money in oil. And I did Google some other things like, do they have cattle? Yes, they have cattle in Buffalo, but they use it within their own country. Obviously, the country's been it's went
Raped.
backwards, not
And
forwards.
raped. Yeah.
And so they have a lot of potential.
Yes.
It's a big chunk of land with all that water. I learned a lot this weekend, and working with you on the show helped me learn more. Let's continue on here.
Yeah, and you mentioned the gold. Eventually, that'll be able to be tapped for the reconstruction. So look around the world. I love to connect dots. Look what's happening in Gaza. Eventually, that's going to have to be reconstructed. Look at Ukraine. Eventually, that's going to have to be reconstructed. Venezuela, the same thing. Look at the
kind of bullish, huh? Bullish construction.
Bullish for infrastructure. Look at your the cranes. Oh my goodness, the crane business and all that. I'm telling you, this is the ingredients if it goes well. Now, there's different scenarios that you can paint on this, but the investment and reinvestment in these major areas of the world could be the trigger for some pretty good redevelopment and improvements around the world, Tommy.
Yeah, I think we tapped on this. Energy risk premium returns. Although crude oil may go down, we're really putting an interesting spin to China. China buys a lot of oil from Venezuela. All right, here we go. More political than market moving. I think in this point you're meaning like you don't think it's going to collapse the stock market or anything. It's a political thing that happened, correct, Jim?
On what?
Oh, did you see this headline?
No, let me see.
That's okay. Venezuela more political than market moving.
That is true. It's more political short term than market moving because of the dynamics, which we've said it's going to take a while. And there's more questions than answers right now. But that shouts out volatility. But it's political for sure. But it shows you how Trump is clearly signaling to the world. What did I tell you for over a year? He tried to convince Maduro to leave, and he didn't. And
he did. Here's a picture of it right here.
That's what he suffers in that.
Did you see that Nike outfit he's wearing? I bet you sport something like that on the weekends. You know that outfit sold out within a half hour.
Really? I kind of like it.
Nike was a big beneficiary of this weekend's dealings.
But again, I cannot overestimate the foreign policy signals that this gives. Look at China. Look at Putin. Putin was a giver to Maduro, and so this is not making Putin very happy. I can tell you that. But again, sends a clear Trump signal to our adversaries. You better believe the might of the U.S. Now, I know in Congress is coming back this week, the Senate tomorrow, Monday, and the House on Tuesday. We've already seen the different approaches. It's been very partisan as usual, although some Democrats say that they definitely was against the leader of Venezuela. They just don't like the tactics. That's kind of on the Democratic side. And they're upset that they weren't told in advance, but Rubio and Trump both said that would have leaked.
Oh, they can't be trusted. Yeah.
Can't be trusted.
Did you see what Joe Biden said 4 or 5 years ago, how he was saying, so after the invasion, how people find this on Twitter is amazing, but there's a tweet for everything. They always say there's a Trump tweet for everything. Well, here's a Biden tweet. And usually it's Trump who tweets something silly and then comes back 5 years later. This tweet says Trump talks tough on Venezuela, but admires thugs and dictators like Nicolas Maduro. As president, I will stand with Venezuelan people and for democracy. Did Joe Biden stand with Venezuelan people and democracy? Didn't you just tell me 8 million people left?
7 million or more of the people left that country. Yeah, it's not. Both Obama and I'm not being political here. This is just
These are
facts.
facts.
Both Obama and Biden maybe talked a foreign policy game, but it was a game. They didn't follow through. That's just period. But this is our hemisphere, and this is what Trump's saying. Don't you dare. But I think they're by the clock is ticking again on Cuba. Look at 90 miles from our coast in Florida. That's a domino. There's your aspect. Dominoes are going to fall, beginning with Cuba. The interesting one, Tommy, is Mexico, because a lot of cartels and drugs and that are in Mexico, and Trump has already had some words about Mexico could be next, etc. That might be a little hyperbole, but I would watch.
Oh, that was
the
in
friction.
the press speech. I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously Colombia with the drugs, Mexico. Now, what I thought when I heard him talk about Mexico, but they've been a big buyer of corn, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if grains were lower again tonight. I'm just not liking this feeling of, okay, Mexico buys corn from us,
and a lot of ham, a lot of American
right?
hams.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And China just started buying beans. Does this force China to buy more beans from us and play nice, or does this totally put a wedge between United States and China? What happened this weekend, Jim?
No, I don't think it will. I think China and the U.S. will still continue their truce, but we're going to have to watch actions, not just words. We're going to have to watch actions. But I also wanted to point out on Venezuela, this is a significant development for Secretary of State Marco Rubio, because his whole career has been directed at Cuba and Venezuela to free those countries up. So he has a lot riding on this. And so his esteem. Now, the Democrats don't like it because they thought that he's deceived them in saying that this was not, country building and things like that. But his star has risen. And depending on how this works out, he's going to be a formidable force in the years ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, I have a nice picture from the war room. This is from Mar-a-Lago. You see Marco Rubio there, obviously President Trump, Rubio again, Peter, how do you say it, Hegseth? And who's the man on the top right picture between Trump and Peter? It's a little hard to see.
Hegseth. Is that
okay? Yeah, Peter's on the left. I don't know who the man
one
in
pointing
the
finger.
Okay, yeah, that's Peter. That might be the general or something, but
that's all. Will Kane. I don't know whether that's Will Kane or not. I don't know.
It's all in Mar-a-Lago, and they set this up, and they were watching it. And
it was just like a show. Trump said they watched the whole thing as it went down. You know,
interesting.
That's
real quick on the. There's a pizza indicator. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I'm sure you are. But when something's going on around the Pentagon, the Pentagon pizza indicator. Are you familiar with that, Jim?
Yes. Also, they don't like the vice president and the president to meet together to go over plans. So what happened is they met. They met on the sly. Because they didn't want to have them both together at the same time. So they had conference calls, etc. So J.D. Vance, I don't think he was in that picture, was he? No,
but I did say to my wife Friday before I went to bed, I said, something big is going down. And she goes, how do you know that? I said, the pizza indicator, there's a Twitter account that posts pizzas being delivered from local pizza places around the Pentagon. It went 5x as busy as normal at 10 at night Friday night. And so
I will monitor that now.
While you're talking and finishing up, I'm going to pull up a picture of it. And I literally said to her before bed, I go, something big's going down. She goes, why? I go, well, the pizza indicator's going nuts. She goes, well, what's that have to do with anything? And I said, one of the few items you can get when you have to work through the night in DC is pizza.
Yes.
And so when they ask everyone to come into the Pentagon and work, they order hundreds and hundreds of pizzas from local places. And there's someone who tracks it. I will actually get the chart, and a picture's worth 1,000 words. But on your notes, the last thing you want to say is why Venezuela matters. And then, of course, we have commodities, gold and dollar. We covered that. But, Jim, why does Venezuela matter?
It's in our hemisphere. Two, it shows you the redevelopment potential of a potential positive for the citizens of Venezuela. We keep mentioning the 7 million people who left. They're all over the world and they're cheering Trump on this one. But now they want to see what happens. That's why it's important. For the commodity markets, yes, it's volatility, et cetera, and we're going to let it play out, but there'll be some knee-jerk reactions, but this thing is going to play out for months, if not years, Tommy. But
Jimmy,
it is a major, major foreign policy development for sure.
Jim, I found something that's so beautiful, it's going to make us cry. This, folks, is the Pentagon Pizza Indicator. We are at DEFCON 4. You guys thought I was making shit up, the BSer, and Jimmy's the smart guy here. Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer, you are in D.C. Did you know that people were tracking things?
I did not
much?
know that. But
Look at this when
now.
I move my mouse over it, it's a piece of pizza. So what happened Friday when I went to bed was we had a big spike.
That's interesting.
And they
that
show
is
you
interesting.
This Domino's is 1.4 miles from the Pentagon. This is Extreme Pizza. They're 147% busier. This Domino's pizza here on this day back here was 400% busier.
That's called foreign intelligence, by the way.
This actually, I'll tell you what, guys, if you're going to learn something about trading, that's what I'm on here for. If the markets were open on Friday night and traders like myself would have saw the pizza indicator go 5x, we probably would have bought S&P puts because we would have thought something was going on. The stock market would have sold off. The squawk services watched this and they would have said, hey, the pizza indicator just exploded. It's never great news. It's not because it's going to be a sunny day the next day. Something's brewing. Uncertainty, which brings volatility.
Yes.
Folks, save this little screen, and I hope watching this learned. I like when
I'll watch it now. Yeah, that's an intelligence tool. And don't you think other countries look at that? Yes, they do.
I don't know, but if Tommy Grisafi in Valparaiso, Indiana is watching it, you should be too. That website is www.pizzint.watch, and it looks just like a trading platform. It's got a ticker and everything else that makes my day that I could actually teach you that. Back to the show, Mr. Wiesemeyer.
Okay.
We are off the rails. We're not at our normal intensity. It is Sunday, but we have to talk about something extremely serious here. More NWS cases in Mexico. Chance of the border opening slim to none today, it looks like, Mr. Wiesemeyer.
No, because when a couple of new cases, Tommy, and but the key there was the second case was 170 miles from the U.S.-Mexico border. And that's been the northernmost active case. And that was the case in, how do you pronounce the state? Tamaulipas? Tamaulipas, in the state of Tamaulipas.
Yep, right here.
And it's 197 miles from the Texas border. So that shrinks the buffer between the outbreak zone and the United States. So what does this mean? Boy, when I talked to the different Trump administration officials, they said, don't talk about the possible month that we could reopen the U.S.-Mexico border. Talk about what it will take. And that means no additional infections detected, the testing of nearby animals, et cetera. So the containment status is going to be key now. The northern spread raises the risk profile, and that's why producers are alarmed in the U.S. because USDA has already estimated $1.8 billion potential loss to Texas alone if it spreads north, Tommy. So there's no evidence Screwworm has entered the United States, and we've had the closed border to Mexican livestock since May, and USDA and Texas officials are warning the risk is rising as cases move north. But Brooke Rollins, USDA secretary, says the sterile insect production facility in Edinburgh, Texas, has a capacity of up to 300 million sterile flies per week. But the goal is a biological barrier to stop that northern spread.
Mm-hmm.
So again, bottom line, and that's why the market went up Friday.
Yeah.
USDA is not using calendar dates. There's no reopening timeline. The border reopening is tied to biosecurity benchmarks, Tommy. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to monitor the containment success, not the political pressure, even coming from Trump to reopen that border in order to get Mexican cattle back into the United States. I do think it's somewhat odd. Maybe it's just coincidence, but I think it's odd that we're only finding one or two examples. So that's raised some questions in the conspiratorial crowd. That
Mm-hmm.
was this a setup or not? I asked people that question in the government here, and they don't want to answer. They go, no, they don't believe that's the case. I just think it's odd that you
Mm-hmm.
only have isolated cases like this.
Yeah. Did we talk about this? The scale of the outbreak?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, we did. So we're back to the very end, Tommy. What's going to happen before the reopening? Again, sustained containment, no new detections, trapping, sterile fly releases, cross-border coordination, and USDA confidence that the parasite will not breach U.S. territory. All those
Mm-hmm.
have to be checked off. What I just said is that later rather than sooner for that reopening of the border, in my judgment,
Mm-hmm.
because it's tied to conditions, not dates. And as long as you have fresh detections, that makes it very hard for the U.S. to announce a border reopening. Now, as far as the market impact, the border closure has cut cattle supply around 10%.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I quoted a veteran cattle industry contact over the weekend. He said beef prices could rise around 10% toward 380, Tommy, with this continued closure, and it's going to strain regional packers, meat packers. So the risk of plant closures this summer and spring and summer are going to increase again. We may see some more, plant closures because of the tightness of the cattle and reduced packing capacity amid animal herd expansion. If you're eventually you're going to have herd expansion, but that equals what he said was an economic time bomb. In other words, you're going to have spike highs in the meat market.
Just think about where we were a month and a half ago when we were just collapsing without a bid, and we were going to have all this beef from Brazil and other countries, and there was all this talk of the second as the weather got cool, we'd open the border. Well, I don't know where this beef's coming in from Brazil, but the stock market's towards the highest and demand's still good for beef. I watch the cash markets at Nesvik Trading. They have a chat group that watches the cash trading all day. Every day seems a little bit higher than the last.
Wow.
And big drops are usually just rumor driven with not a lot of facts behind
They
it.
are. Now you had recently, let's connect some dots here.
Okay.
Remember a week or so ago, maybe it was last week,
Mm-hmm.
China indicated to the U.S. and Brazil especially that they're going to reduce their beef imports. Well,
by
that's
like
going to mean
57% tariff or something.
Yes, that means that Brazil's going to have some more beef to send to the United States, but enough to make a big market impact? I don't think so. That's what the market's telling me. Now, we're going to get a cattle inventory report at the end of this month. That'll probably show fewer cattle than a year ago. So from a market perspective, it looks like we're going to have very firm cattle prices until we know more facts and figures on the U.S.-Mexico border reopening, and we don't have them now.
Yeah. We have to go back in the notes. We said Venezuela screwworm, but I skipped over the all the farm program benefits, and
that's where we need to go.
Yeah, those are just charts that you sent, and these are you got some great stuff here, Jim. You want to talk about it? Farmer Bridge Assistant Program, sir.
Yeah, we finally got it at New Year's Eve. I thought it would be about 5 o'clock. It was at 4 o'clock when USDA Eastern Time finally announced the per acre payment rates. Now it's $11 billion. Remember, they held back $1 billion for specialty crops and sugar. Mm-hmm. And the source of the funding is the Commodity Credit Corporation. Now, Congress later this year, Tommy, I think they're going to come back into town tomorrow or early this week. And there's a need for an additional economic aid package from Congress, but we'll cover that later when it happens. Now, the payment timing by February the 28th. Now, some farmers are saying, why is it taking USDA so long to get these payments out? When you really think about it, I'll defend USDA on this one. There's a lot of things to go through, Tommy, and this is a chunk of change. And so, put the per acre payments up. We finally had that. That's they're based on USDA cost of production, the WASDE December report, 2025 planted acres. There was a uniform formula modeling economic losses, not just trade mitigation. For the 2025 crop year. And again, payments are going to cover a portion of the model losses scaled to that $11 billion cap. Now, look at some of those payments. Look at soybeans are just under $31 per acre. These are per acre. Corn is $44.36 per acre. But initially, I had a lot of questions. We can go into the next one, Tommy, where we show look at rice and cotton and oats and peanuts and sorghum, but especially rice, cotton, and oats. They have much larger payments. And a lot of analysts and farmers have said, why are they so much higher? Go down to the chart showing why rice, cotton, and other payment rates, Tommy, are. Yeah. There we go. Yes.
Multi-year negative margins, Jim.
This is why. Look at the drain. These are down. These are losses per acre. And look at the accumulated losses. That's what you have to go through. Look at cotton. I just feel so bad for a cotton producer. Look at rice. They had a hit last year like you wouldn't believe. Peanuts. I spoke to some peanut grower meetings a couple of weeks ago in DC. I was feeling their pain there. Look at Milo because of the lack of sales till recently to China. Corn. I'm not saying corn, wheat, and soybeans have not had multi-year negative margins that have accumulated, but when compared to the cotton and rice and peanut crop, it pales in comparison. Now, go to the next one, Tommy. Crop payouts by crop. Now, just because soybeans and corn don't have that per acre payment rate like the other crops, look at the total because of the acres. It's based on acres. Corn a little over $4.3 billion. Soybeans $2.5 billion. Call it. Wheat almost $2 billion. And you can see the other crops there. Cotton a little over $940 million. Rice $70 million. And then when you go through by state, these are all from Farm Bureau. John Newton, a good economist there at John Newton, a good friend of mine. These are by state, and you can see the biggest state would be Texas. Yeah,
and that's all that cotton you're talking about.
That's all that cotton. Yeah, but look at Illinois and Iowa for corn and soybeans. They're flexing their muscles in the almost $900 million for Iowa. This is cash flow coming out here by February the 28th. I think it'll be made a little sooner than that, but this by no means is a bailout, Tommy. By no means is it a bailout for some of the reasons we showed. It's been multiple years of drainage. Now, if you go through the next one where we see the OB3 bill, the one big beautiful bill, Tommy.
Was that? I don't know if I have a slide for that.
We don't? Well, I'll just
Let's
tell.
talk about it.
We had about $50 billion investment, the largest since the 2002 Farm Bill, with higher reference prices, improved ARC, increased loan rates, base acres increases, updates the payment limits. And when you bottom line, that's almost $50 billion. But I know we have the ARC PLC payments for the 2025 crops. That's a table. Do you have that one?
No, I'm going to get a C or a D on today's.
Well,
You're going to have to talk your way
I'll
through it.
talk it. I'll talk you through it. The ARC and PLC payments for the 2025 crops are not paid until August this year. That's the reason why we have a bridge assistance program,
Mhm.
because to get us to help get us to there. But when we do, Farm Doc Daily out of the University of Illinois projects corn payments of a little over $6 billion, Tommy.
Wow.
Soybeans, a little over almost $1.2 billion. But look at wheat, almost $3 billion. Bottom line, over $13.5 billion are going to be paid out in ARC or PLC payments in October.
Okay.
And
That's a big
so
number.
that's why we need to get there. Now, I know a farmer should want to say, hey, I'd rather get it from the marketplace. Absolutely.
Mhm.
I hope this number goes way down, because if it goes way down, that means the market's giving it to you, Tommy.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, if you're enjoying this show, every time Jim puts out a post, we put it on the Ag Bull website, www.agbull.com. And of course, as of January this year, a lot of the content I produce will be premium. Wiesemeyer show will be free, and I'll be going live sometimes in the morning, but all the afternoon shows are now premium. And we have a whole list of new contributors, and proud to announce we have a new farm broadcaster who's starting here with the Ag Bull Media team. We'll announce that here in the next few weeks. But if you want premium, $25 a month, $250 annually, www.agbull.com. I'd appreciate if you check it out. Even if you don't want to pay, stop by the website and say hi and that you enjoy this show. If you're watching this show, drop a comment below. Mr. Wiesemeyer will be traveling this week. I believe he's going to travel to Florida and then head up and go see the good folks at Pro Ag in Wisconsin. Jim, tell us about your
Wisconsin, and
travels.
ASA, American Soybean Association meeting in Bonita Springs. I like Bonita Springs. I'll be there. Let's see, I leave Wednesday and I speak Thursday, and then Thursday I go from there to Wisconsin through Fargo, I believe, and then Minneapolis, I think. But so those are my two spots. But boy, January, I'll have a series of speeches. So hopefully I'll be at an area near you, Tommy, of all of you. I did want to point out, relative to the Farm Bridge Assistance Program, had it just been limited to trade mitigation, that total figure would have been half the amount that they announced, the $11 billion. That's just perspective. So that's why they added economic aid. Because a number of crops were not impacted by the U.S.-China trade frictions. A lot of them were soybeans, cotton, sorghum, etc. But that just shows you the need for economic aid, not just trade mitigation.
Yeah, let's take it from the top. Let's wind it down the next minute. We're going to give 20, 30 seconds to each subject. We had three important subjects. We had breaking news. We have the United States. This is wild to say. United States invades Venezuela, and we now have a AKA chess game of what's going on with United States. And really, Jim, United States versus China, or how China is going to react to this and how Russia's going to react to us. Let's wrap it up with your perspectives.
Yeah, there's going to have dominoes. And as we said, Cuba, I think it's just a matter of time before they get rid of the old Castro regime there. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to put pressure on Colombia, etc. And I think that we're seeing the beginning of the watering down of countries run by dictators. That's what it tells me, geopolitically. If it goes well in Venezuela, the verdict is still out there.
During the press conference, they said FOMO, and if you don't know what that means, like we tell our kids, Google it. Right? When the head of the Pentagon saying you guys were messing with Trump, they have videos of that dictator saying, "Come get me, come get me."
Yeah,
and
he taunted.
Know what? We did. So welcome to America, Mr. Dictator.
Yeah,
all right.
Taunted.
Our farmers are getting money. Subject number 2, and we have exact amounts per acre. Your
Yeah,
perspective.
and go through those. Cotton and rice and peanuts got pretty hefty payments relative to corn, soybeans, and wheat. I didn't point out there is a 900,000 AGI test for eligibility. Now, that's a little bit different, Tommy. That means the largest of the biggest producers may not even qualify for this. And there's a 155,000 payment limit per person or legal entity. They say that's the OB3 standard on this one. And I had a story that you've got out on your site last week that I looked at the number of times that USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins mentions small family farmers. Now, that's a phrase that you usually hear from a Democrat administration USDA secretary. So that's been an intriguing one, that she's got a little progressive populist in her, as far as I'm concerned.
Third subject with your perspective, Screwworm. It is getting closer to the border and getting more serious and less contained.
Yeah, I think we show here 197 miles, and that's put any talk about a specific month for reopening of that border. We need to see facts as far as containment rather than these isolated cases. So I think it's going to be later rather than sooner, even though just a few weeks ago I was being told sometime in the month of January the U.S. wants to reopen that border. It looks like that's being reassessed as we speak.
With that, we'll wrap up the show. Leave us optimistic. You've been around a long time. Have you ever seen the United States just casually over the weekend invade another country?
Not to the degree we've had Panama before and things like that, but nothing like on the realm of Venezuela that has domino impacts here. So it shows you the might of our military. I mean, if those people who thought our military wasn't up to snuff, look at this operation. Right or wrong, Trump is flexing the U.S. muscle. And at least the administration is saying this is pro-democracy, this is anti-dictator, and maybe he'll have signals around the world, such as what we've already said, Cuba, Colombia, other countries. So that's a good thing. And as far as the cash flow for farmers, they're going to get a real big infusion coming up here by February the 28th with these farmer bridge assistance packages. Much of that will go, however, to loan repayments. It's not going to make anybody whole, but at least it's better than no aid program, Tommy. And I think lawmakers are going to discuss by the end of this month, I think, the possibility of additional farmer economic assistance because the industry needs it.
Wow. We'll see you next week. I know you have some travels. We'll get together another 5 to 6 days and do this, folks.
Sure.
Upon you watching this, the markets will now be open, and we'll be watching the reaction of this weekend's news. Let's keep an eye on gold, crude oil, the bond market, the stock market, and let's see what news comes out of China and Russia overnight, as they may have something they want to say. Mr. Wiesemeyer, always a pleasure on a special Sunday edition of Wiesemeyer's Perspectives. See you, Jim.
Sure.